Hey, welcome back. So, if you caught yesterday's video, I'm doing a bit of an introvert slash quiet confidence series, and today we're going to be speaking more of the male perspective. So, yesterday's video was about artists that were able to come up using, I guess a correct term for it would be the cheerleader effect. And this is actually from How I Met Your Mother. I remember Barney Stinson, one of the characters. I actually loved like all of the theories and like names he'd come up with things for. But he said that like sometimes a girl can look better if she's in a group, essentially. And so I kind of coined that as a way for you to come up if you are an independent influencer or creator or artist. Having that cheerleader effect might be a way to boost engagement and kind of gain credibility. I also spoke about like a hand-on effect, but you're gonna have to watch that video if you want to catch all of those details. But today, as promised, we are going to be speaking more about men and what it's like to probably be a male introvert trying to create a lane for yourself in the creative industry. And so, as you can see here, the example we have is Frank Ocean. I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan now, but when he came out, yeah, I was a fan. But even more so than that, my older sister was a huge fan, so that's actually how I found out about him. And if I'm gonna touch on being an introvert and actually cultivating a powerful brand for yourself, the first way you can do that, I mean, this kind of applies to anyone, but definitely if you're not about the fanfare, you don't really want to do the press, stuff like, well, the press has to be knocking at your door, number one. But if you don't want to try and reach out to get PR in any way or be seen and do a bunch of networking, then you're gonna have to stand out by doing something completely different to what everyone else in your genre is doing. Now, this is very scary and it honestly requires a lot of courage and bravery to do so. But at the same time, if you are good at being different, because there's one thing trying something new and there's another thing not really executing it well. I hate, I mean, it's pretty well known. Was Megan Thee Stallion's first studio album? Before that, she'd obviously like built up a following with a specific sound. And then in that album, like I know she tried to do a couple of things and it didn't really land well with her audience. So maybe it was just perception bias. It didn't really go with the image you already had of her. But if you're coming up, it's actually a good thing that not many people know you, so not many people have even had a chance to build up a perception of you. So if from jump you decide to like venture out into your own different lane, then that can really pay off for you. And now I'm thinking of the lyrics from Dave when he said, "Drill was the wave, but I picked a lane and then I nurtured it." In Two Birds and No Stone. I believe that's what he said. I haven't listened to that in a while. But yeah, be willing to pick your own lane when everything else is popular and actually nurture it. Keep going, build that momentum as I spoke about in my last video, and hopefully it'll pay dividends for you. So when Frank Ocean came out, I don't believe I mean, I do think Drake was around. He was probably the only other person that was kind of doing this like talking but I'm singing but it's melodic kind of thing. Like there weren't many people doing that. And so when he dropped Thinking About You, that's the first song I heard from him. I believe that is the first song that he dropped. Yeah, it was completely different. And it was really catchy and it's like almost like on a loop. Another song that I can think of that's continually on a loop is the Cisco Fong song. And so that makes it really memorable because if you think about it, like every verse, I didn't even realize it, I think, till this year, that every verse is just repeating itself, but it's just increasing in, what do you call it? It's getting more dramatic. Maybe I don't know if it's the tempo. As you can tell, I'm not a music artist. I don't know if it's the tempo or like sonically something is changing each and every single verse but the lyrics remaining the same, and so that also happens in this song. So that might be a technique for you where it's like in every single verse of your song it just incrementally gets like it reaches a higher pitch range or something like that. If you aren't an artist, another way I could see this happening is, like, let's say you do comedy skits. You could have a general premise, um, maybe where your character is in I don't know, maybe it's like you're doing a skit where every day is the same, kind of like a Groundhog Day. But no, that wouldn't work because Groundhog Day would remain the same. I'm trying to think of how I could say this. Okay, let's say you're doing a comedy skit, and then maybe not with each scene, maybe with each video you drop, it gets even more dramatic. So it starts the same. So that's what builds that familiarity with your audience. But then it incrementally gets a bit longer, and the story and the sketch gets a little bit wilder and a little bit wilder. A good example I can think of is when you're playing that game with your friends, or if you have played it, where each person has to add to the story as it goes on, and it just gets crazier and crazier and crazier. So yeah, that could be a way where you incorporate this. For other people, introducing, oh, again, this is music, but Sabrina Carpenter did it really well. Like, she would perform her song, and then she'd have like a little skit just at the end. So maybe you could be doing a makeup tutorial if you want to branch it out to a different field, and then at the end you share like a little story, and they start off a little bit mundane, and you say, well, not too mundane that no one cares, but just enough that it's, excuse me, hold on, my throat, wow. Whew. Had to drink some water. But yeah, so let's say it's just enough that it's a little bit out of the realm of ordinary. And then your next makeup video, the story you drop gets a little bit wilder. And then the next one, it gets even crazier. And these don't have to be your own stories. Like, maybe you're saying, I don't have any stories. Maybe you could talk about a movie that you watched that you thought was interesting, and then talk about an even more interesting movie. And like I said as well, having theories about stuff can also make you pretty interesting. So maybe you have an unpopular theory about a TV show like How I Met Your Mother. Maybe you watch Stranger Things and you have your theory. Like, just adding a little tidbit, a little story that increasingly gets more and more interesting for the viewer could be a way to retain people. So yeah, that's something that he did with music, but there's so many different ways that you can apply it to your specific industry. Aside from, of course, nurturing a different lane, and then also increasing like the pitch range or whatever it is specifically. I hope someone can correct me. Another thing what he actually exhibited was that he was a first mover. And so regardless of your industry, let's say if we could rewind back the time to like 2023, I know you can't obviously, but like just to put it into perspective, whatever you was doing, let's say it was you're a gaming streamer, you're a comedian, you're a musician. This is when AI was still relatively on the cusp. And I say this because that's around the time when I went to go study my master's degree in AI. Then it was still like, it still wasn't that big yet. So if you found a way to incorporate AI early on in like 2023, people would be like, oh, like, what's he doing? Or what's she doing? Or what are they doing? And the reason why I say this is because, one, you deciding to go out into a new lane makes you a first mover. But number two, what Frank Ocean did as well. Um, Again, I was introduced to him through my sister. So I think at that age, pardon me, the internet was just about like becoming a thing for us. And so usually we would consume content about our artists through traditional print media. But then my sister told me, oh my gosh, like Frank Ocean is on Tumblr, like this online platform, so I'm gonna go on there. And so that's how we first heard about it. And so in that sense he became a first mover of culture, and that kind of relates to the AI as well. It's like being a first mover outside of what you traditionally do can also make you seem more interesting and someone worth following. So yeah, if there's anything that you see popping up, obviously now, I mean, AI is still relatively new. Like a lot of people still don't really understand it. Like there's still a lot of controversy around it. So if you can find a way to incorporate maybe some AI into your content, you could obviously do some more research and find out like what's new, what's on the verge. Another person who was really good at doing this, even though it's not a man, but Elia, she when she was alive and she worked with Timbaland and Missy Elliott specifically, her sounds and the instrumentals they would do, it was like ahead of her time. And so that also made her interesting because it was like, wow, like you're putting out this sound that we're not really familiar with. She was a first mover and she was young. I think, I mean, well, she was young when she started, so I can say that. And so that also gives you that first mover advantage. So rather than thinking, oh, I'm too young to be taken seriously, use it as a unique selling point, and that just shows that you are ahead of the curve essentially. So don't be afraid to try new things. Don't be afraid to try new platforms because that can increase people's respect towards you and give them a higher. I don't know if it's like, yeah, it just make you seem much more on a higher pedestal, so to speak. If you, and I'm not saying that you want people to idolize you, but you do want people to see you just in a high regard and with respect. And also, you just want people to think that you're interesting at the end of the day. So even if that's not what they think, they will definitely think, oh wow, like what are they doing? Haven't heard of that. And so it just gives you some extra brownie points for your branding. Aside from that, I did want to say that another person who was really good at this, I know I mentioned this in my last video, but maybe you didn't watch it, is Bryson Tiller. He entered the R&B space, but with his album Trap Soul, he literally created a whole new genre. And so if you can find a way to create a new genre in what you are doing, then I mean, I don't know how you can't necessarily force that. That's just a part of creativity. But just think of different ways that you can, you know, be seen as a first mover, as someone who's willing to take risks. And like I said, execute them well because it's not enough just to do something new and it's not done in a sonically or aesthetically pleasing way. So you do have to think about all these things when you're willing to venture out. But yeah, that's what I have to say about Frank Ocean and Aaliyah and Bryson Tiller. But if you enjoyed it, please let me know. I am going to do, I believe, one more on the Quiet Confidence series, and then I have one on the Eclectic Woman. Now I'm trying to think, do I have one or two more on the Quiet Confidence series? But yeah, one or two, then I'll do one on the Eclectic Woman personality type, and then I will do a couple more on what's it called, the Nollywood and Gollywood stars, because honestly that is still one of my favorites. I don't care if it doesn't get much views, as long as I put it out there. Maybe one day those stars will actually see it, who knows. But yeah, that's also me being willing to put myself out there. So that's a classic example because I don't see many videos at all of people talking about how they would brand like the OG Nollywood and Gollywood stars. And so even if it doesn't pay off immediately like it did for people like Bryson Tiller and Frank Ocean, it might just pay off in the future. Like I said as well in my last video, I do believe that like the laws of physics apply to almost everyday life. In physics, it says energy can never be wasted. It can only be stored or transferred. So even if you don't see tangible results for what you're doing now, it doesn't mean that your time was wasted. It just means you haven't transferred like or gained the results from it right now. But it's still doing something for you. So yeah, don't be afraid to venture out. And yeah, I will catch you in my next one. If you need any help with your branding, then feel free to check out the link in my description box. Bye.